Can I see his phone?
Oh, okay. Here, you want to see
Yeah, I have to see it because otherwise I don't think we're on.
Excellent.
Good morning, everybody. So we're live?
Hold on. Let's see. Let me double check, but I believe so. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a special edition. It's post-election. Dr. Berry should be heading in any moment. So as many of you know, we're all on the edge of our seats waiting for the national count, keeping fingers crossed every which way and hoping that we all learn a big lesson. One, our country obviously is very divided. It's about a 50-50 split straight across the country. I'm hoping, though, after all this, regardless of who wins, that Dr. Berry and I are really committed to unite to fight. And it really has to be a coming together of this country. We've never been so divided. It's a terrible thing. It's something that I think is unprecedented in our country, and we have to respect the election, regardless of party. Again, this is our constitutional right to have our vote counted. And when you have groups of people questioning legitimacy of a ballot and its legitimacy, if it was received the day of the election, it has to be counted. And shout out to all of those Supervisor of Elections, Ron Turner in Sarasota County, for doing a stellar job, but all across the country. And the reason being is it's tedious, it's unprecedented amounts of voting. And honestly, that should be something all Americans are rejoicing about right now. And that is, we had record numbers of people voting like we've never had before. And it's a testament to the passion everyone's feeling right now. And both sides are feeling that passion, but we have to make sure that the votes are counted. Again, if you did vote by mail, it should be counted. If you dropped off the day of the election before 7 p.m., regardless if you're in Nevada or if you're in Pennsylvania or if you're in Michigan or Wisconsin, that vote should be counted. And I hope that all of us stand behind the Constitution on this. And to the protesters who are following someone saying, go outside the election office and start chanting, don't count the vote here, count the vote here, count every vote everywhere. It is our right to be, if you're an American citizen, you played by the book, you did your ballot, you should have it count. And again, please respect that. I think it's super important. And again, it's important for one another, each of us, to respect each other. We really have to start respecting each other more. Division is great, I guess, but it needs to stop, and we need to come together. And Dr. Berry's here.
I know, sorry.
Started out talking about the respect of the ballot.
Of course.
And respecting everybody's right to be counted. If you turned in your ballot, regardless of what state you live in, by 7 p.m. or whenever that election closed, you have the right to have your vote and your voice heard. So I'm just hoping that everybody respects that. I don't think we should have protesters outside the election offices either way. I think it's a free election. You support the Constitution, you support the American right to vote, and hopefully that'll be respected. So
just like, for sure. Listen, what a response to the election. Great turnout.
Oh my God, great turnout. Historical.
Historical.
The record, it's unprecedented.
By the way, I apologize for being a little late. The circle, of course, can always, we have a circle here in Venice, everybody. And I don't know if, of course, a traffic circle. It only takes one, not always elderly, okay, but not always a snowbird either.
No.
Okay? It just takes one little accident to mess up
accident.
everybody's drive to work. Listen, great turnout. And I'm glad you started with the integrity of the vote.
It's important.
Ruta, listen, I never dress up for Halloween, but those of you who follow me on Facebook will have seen my Oscar the Grouch Halloween costume, okay? Which, of course, Oscar lives where? In the trash can. So I have to embellish, of course, my costume. Well, how did I choose to embellish the costume? Well, I had a white trash bag, put U.S. mail on the front, and put ballots. I put ballots, okay, that would have been thrown into Oscar's trash can. Well, listen, I think What was so troubling to me, the only troubling thing of the week, I'll be honest with you, because listen, I didn't know who was boarding up storefronts and all that, Ruta. I had to talk to my son. I think we talked
Yeah,
about
we
it
talked
on
about it
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I haven't seen any social unrest or discourse or
No,
I
but the
think
election's
everybody's
not over.
I think
and
everybody's on pins and
everyone's on pins and
needles right now,
needles,
waiting
And I hope they
patiently.
don't erupt, and I hope they accept, I hope both sides, I don't care which side you're on, respects the election and respects the results.
And if there's one trait that President Trump and I do share, it would be that I think we're both impatient, right?
No.
So, so listen, I want the result. Everybody wants the result. But these are not ballots that have been found somewhere or coming from somewhere. It's just the result of the inability to count before.
And people should understand. I mean, Donald Trump's like, oh, it should be just the election day. In the United States, it's never worked like that. You have the right, and every state has its jurisdiction of when and how long the votes can be tallied. And
Right.
they're following the letter of the law.
So we're all
you have to
impatient.
respect that.
And you can't stop a count here and continue a count there just for your own purposes. But listen,
you can't. And it's kind of comical.
I want to back up a little bit because I want to reach out to my Republican friends, and I have plenty of them. And listen, we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to begin to talk on a, listen, I reached out to Joe Gruters in one of his Facebook posts. I congratulated him for his win. He is our state senator, of course. And I congratulated Joe for two reasons. One is for his win, but I also congratulated him for his organization, for bringing the Republican Party to President Trump, which was his goal. So I recognize when somebody does what they say they're going to do. And hey, listen, you got to, reach out to Joe to that extent, and Christian Ziegler as well. They did run a pretty remarkable campaign here in the state of Florida. And let me tell you something else, everybody. I don't think anybody's kid is growing up right now and saying, oh boy, I want to be a pollster.
No.
Listen, if there's anybody that comes out of this, to me, I used to think that the weathermen, hang on, now hold on, I got a rant here. I got a rant here. I'm an ER doctor. When I'm an ER doctor for 33 years, you know how often I was allowed to be wrong as an ER doctor?
Zero.
Never.
Yeah. Zero.
Never. Weathermen, well, they get it wrong. Ruta picnics now and again.
Yeah.
But these pollsters, Ruta, who are these people?
I don't know.
Who's paying these people?
I have no idea.
Who says that they have? Listen, I have an idea, everybody. Before we need something known next poll, let's have a Wawa poll. Okay. Yes. Everybody's got to go into the Wawa. I don't care if you're rich. I don't care if you're poor. Everybody needs gas. Everybody needs a cup of coffee, but whatever it may be. On the way into the Wawa, ring a bell right, ring a bell left, okay, and then tally it up, okay, over 2 weeks. I guarantee you that's going to be a better poll.
Probably, you know what? Honestly, you probably get the same, better results.
I don't know, better results because everybody's got to do certain things. I don't think everybody the pollsters reach. The pollsters obviously don't reach Donald Trump voters all the time, or the Donald Trump voters don't admit how they're going to vote. They got it wrong. They got it wrong again. They got it wrong in Florida with Andrew Gillum, and Ron DeSantis. Okay?
They got it wrong with the Hispanic vote in Miami-Dade. What the hell is wrong with you people?
So I think we need a better way, or quite frankly, no way. I just don't know what role the polls play in this massive social media environment. And let me tell you, Republican friends, I have a better understanding for you now. I'll be honest about it.
How so?
I do.
Why?
Because I was so depressed on Tuesday night when I really saw how things were going and having to think about another 4 years under President Trump. But I had to get an understanding that there's so many people that I do like and I do respect that think it's the right way to go. It's not me, but there's 40% of this country or 45% of this country that, in spite of his tweets, in spite of his overt racism, okay, and that's a very troublesome thing, that there are people that do believe that his leadership was a direction that this country could go that is acceptable enough for them to vote for him because of financial reasons. Listen, in my personal opinion, I think most people that have followed Donald Trump and Trumpism follow it for financial reasons. I can't believe that they follow it because of—
I disagree. I think there's because I think the percentage that actually benefits financially from what Donald Trump has done on a tax level is an extremely small percentage of the United States. It's very small. People that earn over $400,000 is very small.
But he's created a narrative that
he's
it's his
can-
economy that's been perking. And listen, he's
But,
nothing but a
okay,
showman. We know that, Ruta. In
but
my opinion, it is
still,
Obama and Biden's economy that he continued to perpetuate, right?
I agree. But the thing is, if you look at who his supporters are, they tend to be some of the poorest people in this country
I
and the
know.
most uneducated people in this country.
Yeah,
and
astounding to me.
Astoundingly, most of them, like in states like Kentucky, the majority of people are on some kind of social assistance, yet they voted for Trump, who's against the social assistance. They're voting against their own best interest. And one of the things that I could give kudos to the Republican Party on this one. They have their people and their voters convinced to vote straight down the line, regardless. They don't look at the character of the person running against them. If it's a Democrat who has great values, that have shared values. One of the things, and we'll discuss this, marijuana. We have people who are voting for the opposite, not the Democrats, who are in support of medical marijuana and marijuana in general. Most Republicans are not in support of it. Majority aren't. In all across the country. Yet you have people who are pro-cannabis, who are Republican, voting Republican against their own best interest. So again, I have to disagree. I think they're so, and again, the Republicans have hit home the message, go vote. They're very strong on election day. They're bombarding text messages, phone calls, phone banking. They're out there, vote today, vote today, vote today, vote today. And their people are like voting today,
I guess that's my point, Ruta.
They're good at it.
And the reason I was so depressed on Tuesday night was that and I know you were too, I was expecting a repudiation of Trumpism. I was expecting and hoping
a little bit.
Let's put it this way. I was hopeful for a repudiation of racism, for a repudiation of authoritarianism, okay, of a refutation, hang on, of somebody sitting in the basement somewhere manufacturing ballots and sending them out and this organized whatever they think is going on, okay? Nobody's manufacturing ballots. Nobody's finding 1,000 ballots in a base. No, these are all just baseless conspiracy. And I have doctor friends that I look at Facebook and they're just so tied into the narrative of nonsense, as I like to call it.
But
it's a narrative of nonsense.
It's interesting too, because I think one of the things that I've heard from a lot of Trump supporters are they think that they're not being heard, and they think that now that there's freedom of speech is being heard more. So to actually about the repudiation of racism and bigotry, they're viewing it as now they're free to speak out how they really feel.
I know.
They don't want that suppression.
I got it.
And they think that we were somehow before they were being suppressed when they were politically correct, and now they have their newfound First Amendment rights and Second Amendment rights and all of these rights. And
it's scary because even though Trump goes away, Trumpism does not.
But where's it going to go?
I don't know.
Where's it going to find this?
I don't know.
So all those people who invested in all these flags, should Trump lose, I wonder what they're going to do with them. But it's kind of funny, and it's kind of sad that this is the only other thing that was my observation on Tuesday. I don't know if you had it down here, but in Sarasota, there were people with pickup trucks with the huge American flags and the Trump things driving all around the streets, all around, honking loud, driving everywhere, like blah. Why do they think they're more patriotic than the other side? Why? You are not. We're all Americans again. And yet for some reason they think if they stick that flag in that 4x4 that somehow we're American and you're not. That's not true. It's not.
And it is the most astounding difference, I think, between the Biden campaign and the Trump campaign. I still think that the Biden campaign has attempted to be a unifying campaign.
Yes,
and I've never heard that out of Donald Trump's mouth. To unify this country.
There's no interest to unify. Why? There's no why.
I'll tell you the scary thought is, Ruta, if he would have handled this coronavirus, crisis in a better manner. Okay, I do believe he would have won the election.
Well, he still may have. We can't
He
call
may
it. It's
still have.
it's
You're
close,
right.
and I'm not saying.
I've had people reach
poo,
out
poo,
to me
poo, I
and
don't
try to
wanna
offer
jinx
me
it.
congratulations. I just
Not
will not.
yet.
And I
It's
won't take it.
it's too close.
It is too
too
close.
close to call, and we may have Trump for another 4 years, and that's a reality. And again, how do we come together if it is Donald Trump? It's going to just be divided as it is now. The hope is, should Biden win, maybe in 4 years from now, we're not going to see this division. And I'm
You know what's so
hoping-
sad to me? I think about Donald Trump as a person. Wouldn't you think at this particular point, if you get a second term, that you would open up and you would
Why?
change?
Why?
Well, because that's what human beings do. That's what empathetic, normal human beings do. Listen, I've won again. Okay, I've won again. I have no grievances anymore. America, let's all wrap up in this flag of unity and go forth together. Can this speech ever come out of his mouth?
No.
So that's a scary thing to me, and why he'll never be presidential to me. He is president,
But he's
yes.
president, so but he doesn't care, and his followers do not care. So that's
I
the
guess
thing,
that's
they
what was
just
so
don't
depressing
care.
to me about that night, Ruta, was that there was no repudiation and everybody had a chance again to reset. Am I going to vote for this man again? Or am I not going to vote for this man again? Okay. And I was fooled because we have plenty of patients at the clinic who came in and told me that, you know what, I voted for him the first time, but I will not vote for him again. And we didn't see that very much in this election. He
didn't.
held those
He held
margins
his, no,
everywhere.
he held, and he did hold, and
I
even
know-
independents, because if you look at
I know.
the turnout,
Yes,
he-
independents. Many
Independents,
voted for him.
a lot voted for him. So again, I don't know what they're voting for, and this is like what's mind-boggling. I understand if you're, like I said, in that maybe top 10%
Well, let's just look at
echelon.
the Cuban population, Ruta.
Okay,
So
well,
they,
okay, here again. This is where the Democrats drop.
I'm glad I'm a good foil for you
Oh
today.
yes,
Please
you are.
go.
The Democrats drop the ball again. Okay, they take for granted. They do the Hispanic vote. They take for granted the Black vote. They do. And women came out, and the African American women, the mamas, you brought your kids to the polls, and you did a great job. Kudos to you. Where the Democrats dropped the ball with the Hispanics, the Republicans, again, were brilliant at messaging socialism.
Yeah.
And if you look, especially in Miami-Dade, you're talking Cubans who are anti-socialist to the nth degree, who would have probably not voted for Trump and would have voted the way we thought for Biden. The Dems knew the messaging. They heard it loud and clear. The Republicans were relentless. They were sending emails, texts, phone calls, billboards stating socialism, socialism, socialism. And these people got scared, and they're like, they hear socialism. They're like, no, never again, never again. We were under Castro. Let's vote for Trump. The Democrats didn't hit back. And it's their weakness. Every single time they don't punch back. The Republicans, they're great at messaging. They're great at blasting it out time and time. And the Dems take a seat back and they're like, oh, they're not going to vote like that. Yeah, they do. You just had a wake up call. And it happens time and time again. And the Dems need to step up their game in messaging and fighting back and counterpunching.
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, to be a Democrat in Florida right now is, is somewhat depressing. Listen, I know you have a little soapbox tonight.
Yeah, tonight on
right?
ABC 7 on 7, I'll be talking to Jacqueline Matter about the Democrats in Sarasota County in particular. We did okay in Venice and Northport. We took a couple seats, but overall in Sarasota, for any big race, whether it was Fern Buchanan versus Margaret Good, Alan Ellison versus Greg Stubbe. The Senate seat went to Joe Gruters. The district seat went back to James Buchanan and then went to McFarland. We can't take a seat. Never mind county, which we haven't had 50 years of any Democrats sitting on. We as Democrats have to wake up. What are we doing wrong? They keep using the same tactics, the same mentality, the same everything. And 50 years later, we're still not winning here. So we need a wake up call. We have to be like, what are we doing wrong? And take a look at ourselves and see, why can we not win here? I understand the numbers are the numbers. The Republicans have about 40,000 more registered Republicans in the county of Sarasota than we have for Democrats. However, there's, like you said, there's not everybody was on the Republican side for a lot of issues. And some of these home issues, they're not Democrat and they're not Republican. They're county level issues. And these are issues about water control, soil, roadways, over construction, taking away protected wetlands. These are things that are matter
Medical
to
cannabis,
us.
MMTC
Yeah,
locations.
cannabis, like
You know.
seriously, and that's a county commissioner decision. And they're voting against their best interest by party lines. And this is where we have to, as Democrats, have to break down that barrier. So tonight we're going to be discussing a lot of frustrations personally too, because I ran. It's not an easy thing to run in this county. It's extremely red, and you get it personally attacked usually by opposition. They play dirtier than you do.
And it's expensive.
And it's very expensive. They're more funded. They outfund you because they usually have some developer in their back pocket who's backing them to make sure that they get their developments done somewhere. So these are things that are important, but the people, this is the thing. I think the majority of people, one, they don't care. They really don't. And when you talk to most people, they're like, "Who's your county commissioner?" If you ask 10 people outside, who are you, the county commissioner? Who's your county commissioner for your district? I guarantee you 90% will not even know who their county commissioner is. And yet that county commissioner is going to determine where the lights go in your neighborhood, the stop signs, where there's going to be road expansion, where there's going to be development expansion, and yet nobody knows. And these are things that affect you. And so that's my soapbox. It's going to be tonight at 7.
This is going to be a crazy, development period here, in
it's exploding.
Sarasota County. It's exploding.
It's
And if we don't manage things appropriately,
And even land. I mean, people talk about, whether it's the conservation groups, and I'm one of them. I want to protect some of our land. We have beautiful wildlife here in Florida and we're decimating it. So, controlled growth is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. I don't want to say no growth, but controlled growth is important. And again, this is county commission levels. And most people, when you talk to them one-on-one, regardless of party, they're like, yeah, I want that. But when it comes to the ballot, they don't vote that way. So it's our job to do. And this is where the Democrats need to wake up and say, we got to get to those people who don't care, but care about the issues, and somehow break through going straight down. Like I said, the Republican Party is brilliant at having their people go straight down the ballot, and we have to learn to do the same.
Did.
So.
And
they did. And
listen, a couple observations. Hang on. First off, you look great today. I haven't heard any cough at all or any of that. Give us an update on your mom. What's going on?
So my mom, she's home. She's doing really good. She had a really good day yesterday.
Good.
So she's on 2 liters of oxygen, which is her baseline. She's at 98% saturation.
And you are giving plasma this afternoon.
So I went and got tested yesterday. So they tested me for antibodies yesterday at Suncoast Blood Bank.
Shows you where my head's at. It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. That's okay. So yesterday, they got that done, and then I guess if I have the right antibodies, they'll pull.
Well, no, my brother did the same thing, right? So my brother, who also had, COVID, recovered. What he told me is you go and you give the plasma, and then they test. I guess he was going to give the plasma either way, and they can use the plasma in another purpose if he doesn't have the antibodies. But he does have the antibodies, and they are using it.
For me, because I guess I don't know why they were like, we want you for the COVID, so they said we're going to test the antibodies first, and then you'll give the plasma next.
And if I can say one thing that I have noticed, and I don't think it's going to continue, because let's face it, this has been a crazy 2 to 3 days. You know what we really haven't seen on the news in the past 2 to 3 days?
COVID.
Talk about COVID.
No.
So as you remember, during the campaign, many people said, after the campaign, it's all going to go away. Listen, people, it's not.
It's not.
Somebody's going to get COVID today, and there's going to be 1,000 people in this country that are going to die today because of COVID.
A lot of you know Michael Saunders. She passed away from COVID 2 days ago. And because of the election, it was kind of quiet. But Michael Saunders, the big real estate person here in Sarasota, she passed away of COVID. She died in the Sarasota Memorial.
Wow.
So our condolences condolences to her family and to all her loved ones.
Wow.
Michael did a lot for Sarasota County. She was a very generous woman.
Wow, that's a stark reminder that not everybody gets that clapping
Not everybody
from the
does.
nurses and doctors on the way out of the
No, and
hospital. Is
you're
that right? I'm so
No, and you're
sorry.
talking, she's a pillar of society. And another one was Maria Klauber. She was another one,
Wow.
huge philanthropist in Sarasota, very well known, also passed away over the weekend. So
Huh.
COVID's real.
So let's get back to really what our hashtag battle is right now. It's
Unite to fight.
hashtag unite to fight.
Mhm.
Now that the election is over and we'll get our results, I think maybe even today.
I think it's today. I do. I think by tonight we'll have I think even by this afternoon, late this afternoon, we're going to have a president, a president.
The president-elect.
Elect or
right.
or a re-elected president, but we'll have somebody running.
It's going to be interesting, and it will be interesting to see, the next week as the progression goes and how many lawsuits there are and how many challenges
But the lawsuits
there
are frivolous, because
But the dangerous
percentages-
side of the whole process is if they extend it out too long to get to the point where the electors are supposed to be selected for the
It
electoral
won't happen.
college.
I don't think so.
I hope not,
I
Ruta,
don't
because
think
that
so,
always
no.
has been the doomsday scenario.
But I don't think so. And even all the legal scholars, they were discussing things over the last couple of days. I was listening to them. Even the contention of like certain states, the ballot difference is going to be so minimal. You're talking a couple hundred. It's not going to make a difference here or there. If you're talking
On the
100
recounts.
on the
yeah.
recounts and things like that, and even like having people at one of the things that they're questioning, the Trump administration was questioning at some of the polls and some of the election sites were, no one's there to supervise. And when you heard the supervisor of all the elections in those states, they have
Everybody's there.
They have a Republican and a Democrat.
Everybody's
you have
there.
Republicans counting as much as you have Democrats, and they're sitting side by side in most cases. They're having
Everybody's
one from each
there
party
to
to
supervise.
supervise.
We
There's so
all
many
know
people who
that.
know that. Yeah, it's a silly argument.
It is. And I'll tell you one other thing, and I think it led me to my introspection, Ruta, of the other night, was that the Senate didn't fall like I expected it to fall.
Well, we still have a
right?
couple outstanding.
We
races
do,
there,
we
so
do. But
We have
Lindsey
Georgia
Graham,
still.
to me, I
Oh
just
my
shook
God, and Mitch
head.
McConnell.
And Mitch McConnell and Joni
How?
Ernst.
How? And
Well,
even Susan
Susan
Collins.
Collins.
He's like, and everything. I'm
So,
sorry, I don't like
They're
her.
following President Trump in pretty much, lockstep. Did not hurt them, but helped them.
Yeah.
So their risk, so to speak, of following somebody that I wouldn't follow into a sewer. Well, no, I'm teasing. I don't know. I would never follow Donald Trump, and I'm not a Trumpist, and I don't like the man. But they hitched their wagon to him, and they hitched it, and they stayed hitched, and it paid off for them. And that depressed me.
You know what my question is though? Okay, so say Trump loses, God willing, today, and President-elect Biden is now in the man. One, you have a lame president, a lame duck president. So
Right.
he's just buying his time for 2 months to get out of office.
Boy, is
What
that
is he
a
going to
scary
undo?
thought.
It's very scary. What is he going to have his hands on that he's just going to decimate
Yeah.
as much as he can?
Most
and then-
dangerous time of the
It
presidency,
is. It's
as far
very
as I'm
dangerous.
concerned.
And then the second thing is you have like the Ron DeSantis's of the world who are the Trump puppets. What's DeSantis going to do now? All of a sudden, he was like the right-hand man of Trump and pushing the policy, which is actually something that's actually for Florida. And hopefully then in two years, Nikki Fried or Val Demings or someone like that will actually run for office and take it to a Democratic governorship. But I'm just, that sitting lame duck presidency time, that 2 months, it's a very scary time. For
And
me.
why my hope is that the Unite to Fight campaign of everybody masking,
Yeah,
everybody taking those
precautions,
appropriate
just
steps.
precautions.
Listen, we're heading into the holiday season, and listen, I think next week we're going to pick back up with COVID talk pretty much on the Daily News,
Of
because
course
we're
it
heading
will.
into the holidays, and
Yeah.
Dr. Fauci and those that believe in the science will continue to speak of the danger coming into this holiday season of gathering, of shopping, of all. You can't let your
Travel,
guard down
yeah.
right now. Listen, just to give a big important thing that happened in the cannabis space.
Yeah, we have to talk about
Right,
that.
well,
6 states.
Right. Well, for sure. But also telehealth was extended yesterday.
Mhm.
So in typical state fashion,
Oh,
okay,
God.
telehealth when we started our day yesterday.
We didn't
okay?
know.
We didn't know, so we had no patients booked for telehealth. Every patient booked to come into the office because we always follow the state rules.
Yeah.
Anyway, at 9:30 or so, we find out. Well, in fact, the night before he did sign. It was signed the night before, by the way. Never
But
announced.
they don't announce
Never
it, so
announced,
you
never
have
sent out.
patients.
So we had to find out. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's
we do
crazy.
have telehealth, and you know when we have
We do.
telehealth, tell everybody January 3rd, all the way through the holidays.
Which is
okay,
fantastic.
which is fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's good safety
So,
for patients.
right, for those patients who have their medical cannabis cards, they can now do their recertification with their doctor. Not new patients. New patients
I know,
need
they
to
have to
continue to
come
be
in.
seen. And yes,
Let's talk
every
about the 6
single
states.
green
Yes!
issue that was on the ballot
all across
passed.
the United
Every single one of
States.
them.
That's amazing.
New Jersey with full legal
That didn't
adult
surprise
use.
me because of New York and the
But let's talk
Democrats
about
doing
it. So
all
everybody says, God, I'm so jealous of New Jersey. When is this going to happen in Florida? Let me tell you what New Jersey did. To my reading, what New Jersey did was they legalized it, but there's no setup to how to do it yet.
Oh.
So hang on, watch this. I believe as I read it, it's been kicked back to the legislature for them to fashion the rules.
Oh, wow.
Right now, they have a Democratic
Yeah, they do,
legislature.
so it'll be
So
okay.
maybe it won't be quite, but it's going to be at least 2 years, everybody, until you can walk into a dispensary up in New Jersey and buy product. Surely not through 2021.
Interesting.
It's going to be 2022. Other states did things that were very interesting also. I think it was Montana that approved both medical and legal adult use on the same day.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting because, as you know, it's one of the things that we talk about in the green room and what I talk about when I deal with my legislative friends and otherwise. We need to protect medical in Florida,
Yes.
no matter what happens with legal adult use. And there's a lot of
Absolutely.
reasons for that. Most important reason is to protect our taxation at zero. Okay. But just as important is to protect the educational process of people that want to use
Yeah.
cannabis as
Education
medicine.
As medicine. It
As
is
medicine.
very important. It is. And I think this is one of the things that is lacking across the United States is the medical teaching aspect of medical cannabis. Because a lot of people
no
just
doubt.
don't understand it. And there's a big need for it. But I am happy that all 6 states passed it.
Listen, there's a lot of efforts.
Mississippi.
So Mississippi actually had 2 measures.
wow.
Mississippi had 2 measures on the ballot. One measure was an unbelievably restrictive measure. It was terrible. There wasn't a cannabis advocate anywhere that was in favor of it, but it was supported by the legislator and but it went down. It went down. The one that was better for the people was the one that was passed. That's right. So very, very interesting.
And Arizona went full legal.
Arizona also went
full
legal adult use. So I want to give a big shout out to David Nathan and my friends with Doctors for Cannabis Reform, working on the national level and doing all the things they do. And listen, everybody, now that this election is over, let's focus on what's going to be going on in the cannabis space coming into next legislative season, which I think is a March to May this year, Ruta.
I honestly haven't.
I think it's a March. Yeah,
I haven't.
I know. It's a March to May. But I like to bring up the 4 issues that I think that we can actually achieve. This year, right? Yeah, I know. I think we can achieve the continuation of telehealth, right, for recertification patients. It's in the constitutional amendment that we can't do it, so it has to be changed at the legislative level. We need state-by-state reciprocity. So those snowbirds who are allowed in 30 days in the state, everybody, but you got to get your medical card, right? But if you have a card up north, you should be able to qualify for a card down here in Florida, not matching qualifying conditions. What are those patients supposed to do? I'm not going to send them to the black market.
No, they're not.
Ease of veterans access, right? A veterans card should be good for 5 years or free, however it goes. And then we need added an ease of nursing home access,
oh,
right?
God. Can I tell you how many people I talked to recently that work in nursing homes that have asked for that? And again, I think it needs to get on the ballot or be an initiative in the legislation side.
But those are 4 things that don't increase the numbers in the program, don't enhance the amount of THC coming out of the program.
They're needed.
It helps the patients that are already in the program. What we know is that, on the other hand, and let's face it, that that state house and that state, Senate did not get any less Republican in this election, and they did not get more liberal in this election.
Yeah,
Okay, we're
that's
going to
for
have
sure.
Representative Sprouse, I think, is going to be the new Speaker of the
Really pay
House, and
attention.
right. So whatever it may be, we're going to be fighting battles in the legislature, guys. We're not going to be able to add qualifying conditions easily. Don't think about home grow,
And
okay,
again,
job
this is okay,
protections.
but
These
can
are
I tell you,
high-hanging
but this
issues,
is,
but they're
and
important.
again, this is where it's mind-boggling to me that we have a state like Florida who is asking us, and we have patients, we have thousands of patients in this practice, by the way, and mixed parties and
Of
independents.
course.
Every single one is asking for more access for their friends or loved ones or veterans. And it's such an, or nursing homes, and yet they're voting for the people who aren't in support of it. I don't get it. I'm like, I just don't get it. And again, maybe it's our role for the next election cycle to start telling patients, if you're supporting this, or your patients or your friends that are in support of this, vote appropriately, because you're voting against your own best
And to work on the
interest.
leaders to continue to
Yeah,
educate
it's
them, quite
crazy. I
frankly,
don't get
Ruta,
it. I just don't get it.
Well, it's all about education.
It is
and,
education.
and,
It is. I
let's
agree. It
face
is.
it,
And getting the word out. It
Nancy
is.
Reagan said no for a whole lot of years, Ruta,
Yeah, just so you know.
and that egg has been frying in that pan. This is your brain on
On
drugs,
drugs,
for
yeah.
a lot of years. So, a lot of these legislative leaders have grown up, with that mindset, but we change them. We change them when they come into the office,
One
and
at
they
a
get a
time.
chance to
Yeah.
see what we do, one at a time.
One at a time.
One day at a
but
time,
One day
one
at a time.
leader
But I
at a
hope,
time.
like I said, hopefully we can do something on this side as part of that for the next cycle.
And I
So,
think in a lot of ways, it's what's assuaged me, because listen, I used to say it, I guess I can say it again. We put our little pink ears on every day here in the clinic, right? We know we run a little counterculture. We know that we are fighting for what we know is on the right side of history on this
We
one.
just
Listen,
know
that's
it's
what I've been,
right.
answering people, on Facebook and Twitter, to the extent of all the cannabis, issues. Listen, that's an easy one, everybody. That's
Yeah,
history.
cannabis is green, and it's
Getting-
also green.
it
Cannabis
is.
is green.
Getting on the
red, white, and blue on the screen. and
Listen,
green
getting on
behind.
the cannabis reforms, and that's what's important about the reforms that have been done recently. They're including the expungement issues for people that have minor offenses, right?
Yeah,
They're giving the tax money back to those communities that have been adversely affected, right?
Yeah.
And I promised myself once the whole, and God, I mean, just think of the things that have happened in this country in the last 6 months with racial and social injustice, and George Floyd, and everything that's happened after.
Now, it's interesting. Like, I would have thought that would have shifted some of the votes.
It did, Ruta. That was my point in the beginning. Maybe I
Yeah.
misspoke a little bit. Maybe I was just astounded at what I saw on Tuesday night. And I've been looking for a reason why my Republican friends, who I'm going to continue to call my friends, and I'm going to continue to interact, friends are friends, why they see the world so differently than I do. So I'm going to continue to struggle with it.
I have a lot of very close friends who
I know.
are Republican, extremely close friends who are, and I just
So I'm going to continue to struggle with it. And I hope they show our new government the respect that they deserve.
If it should be, I hope so. And, because it was funny, people are like, oh, the Democrats really didn't, I mean, Trump is Trump, and the criticisms were well-deserved of certain things that happened in this country under his administration. I just hope that should the powers change, that there's a respect for the incoming president-elect. And again, I don't think anyone should riot in the streets regardless of party. It's uncalled for. There's no reason for civil unrest for that. We're better than that. Like, again, I think I don't want to turn into a banana republic, and I think that we're seeing signs of us turning that way, and I don't like it, and we need to stop that.
That's what the Tuesday night at 2:30 speech, or Wednesday morning at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, Wednesday morning at 2:30. It was.
Listen, we count the votes in this country.
We do.
And we respect the results in this country.
And again, in the Constitution, thank God for that, because it does safeguard those votes, and it supersedes anybody who's dictator-like to come in and say, I count those votes, don't want to count those votes, don't want to count those person's votes. And I hope that all the judges, should it come down to a suit, that all the Supreme Court judges on a local level, on a state level, follow the Constitution, and I think they will. Hey,
the point is, the real winner needs to be the country. The real winner needs to be the
American
institutions
people and the American people.
and the people.
The people.
And the
The
Constitution.
people will say you're either hired or you're fired, and let the people speak. And if you're hired, you're hired, and we have Biden. If you're fired, bye-bye Trump. So like, I mean, it is, we have to respect the will of the people, and that's what makes this country what it is. And we cannot suppress that. It's what makes America great. And the diversity is what makes us great. And the fact that now if the map is starting to turn red and blue in certain areas, we have to welcome that as part of our democracy. We can't fight it, and welcome it. And again, hopefully peacefully. Well, we should have results today, which is really exciting.
I
So
know we
we're
said
all
on
the edge of
Tuesday
our
that we'd be
seats.
meeting in the green room on Thursday
I
morning,
know,
knowing the
I know,
outcome,
I
and we
know,
should have
no,
known
no.
better.
So yeah, we should have.
But I
planned
would
it for
suspect by
Friday.
next Thursday in the green room,
Yeah, by that
we
time.
probably will know.
And by that time, we're all going to have political exhaustion and be wiped out. And just a quick shout out, CannaFest is this weekend. If
Right.
tickets, I believe, are actually sold out on Saturday. But you can come here. We have a few tickets laying around if you really want to get a CannaFest. It's from 10 o'clock, I believe, till 5 o'clock.
10 to 5,
10 to 5,
Sarasota
we're gonna-
County Fairgrounds,
County-
outside.
Outside. It's
Masks,
outside. Optional,
advised,
but advised, but
optional.
it is outdoors.
Right.
And again, we're going to be there. We'll have a booth there. You'll see our flag flying with Compassionate Cannabis Clinic.
Yeah, it's really the first
So-
event to have come back. I love it because it's
Yeah, it's
outside.
outside
It will
and-
be a gathering of most of the MMTCs will be there.
Yeah, a lot of dispensaries. MMTCs are dispensaries. A lot of people don't know what those
And
are.
a celebration of cannabis, the true green issue,
Yeah, the green
here in
issue.
the green room.
So come out to CannaFest on Saturday if you have some free time in Sarasota. It'll be a fun event, and walk around, get some fresh air. And outside of that, catch me on ABC 7 tonight.
And we'll see you next week.